How do you ignore culture and what it does to you? I don't think that's possible.
I agree, but maybe they'll catch it this time, I mean, just like I know it sounds weird, but I had this talk with a guy I met on YouTube and finally got to talk with a few weeks ago. He's also from another culture, so that helps. But he has the same idea as me, that somewhere around 2012, and we even think that it's around December 2012, that we got one of these cleanings of our operating system and made a huge twist in the kind of things we think about, the kind of things we ran into. We both found McKenna. We didn't listen to it before. And it's really weird because this is a guy that is half Spanish, half English, who has traveled pretty much the same road as I have, but maybe in a slightly different order. And now we finally met, and it was like I found somebody that I've been talking to for 10, 15, 20 years, and it's really weird like that, as if maybe something happened around that time that maybe gave a few people a nudge, maybe just a slight nudge, or maybe a big, in my case it was a big turnaround, but for others it was maybe a slight nudge, and maybe some kind of thing, energy, I don't know what it would be, is causing this,
That's possible. I saw some documentaries on 2012 when everybody was saying it would be the end of the world. And it was not only about the Mayans, but also about like the Hopis, who also had an issue with the end of 2012. And what they were saying in the Hopi tribe, if I remember correctly, was that this doesn't mean the end of the world. What it does mean is that there's a rebirth spiritually. So something very slight in the shift of global culture, and it could be something as, I don't want to call this simple because it's not simple, but it is quick the way it happened. Suddenly everybody in the world almost can get in touch with one another. That's a pretty new thing. That didn't exist before 1994. I mean, you'd have to go into town to get to a phone, and then you'd have to go through the complex issue of, calling someplace, and then did you pay for your toll and all that. Now you can get on the internet, and I'm talking to a guy from the Netherlands. This would not have happened in 1990. I would have had to call and, call his phone and say, forget that, let's go back to 1930. No telephones. All right, you might have had a telegraph. Go back to 1890, no telegraph. Now how do you talk to anybody in the world? Well, you've got to go. You've got to get on a ship.
Yeah, but even, I mean, if you even take away talking, but think about how we would meet.
Yeah.
It was impossible.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. So this could be this nudge you're talking about might be more of a shove, in that we now have, the willingness may not be there. For example, I know people who would have no interest in talking to somebody from the Netherlands. I am incredibly curious about people from around the world, and I want to hear what they have to say about it, and I want to understand what the world thinks. But there are plenty of people, probably in your own country, RD, that don't care what people from the outside think. Doesn't apply to them. So they can't have a spiritual or a conscious awakening of civilization across the world if they have no interest in knowing how they differ, right? So that's still going on.
I think you only need a very small percentage to make a big change in the world, right? So
yeah, I agree.
If 5% was affected by it, it's already enough. And I do appreciate the fact that it's really clear that when we talk, it's really, really clear how interested you are. And I don't think you can have a decent conversation if you don't, if you're not really interested. It's going to turn into a debate, and that's often more like a fight than a conversation,
Yeah, I don't really enjoy debates. I just enjoy sharing ideas and probing. And if you hear me say something that you disagree with, there's such a polite way that you can say, here's the way I see it. And you might give an answer that is a polar opposite of mine, which is fine. Those are competing ideas, but they don't have to be delivered with any notes of sarcasm or anger or short-tempered nature, So that's good when you can talk to people like that. I think, the Asians are incredibly good at that when it comes to customer relations and stuff. Japanese, Chinese, they can tell you you're exactly wrong without offending you. And I think that's just good conversational skills. But like you said, if you don't have the curiosity, you won't care about exploring. And if you don't have the respect for the people outside of your local populace, then you're not going to show them any respect, which is sad. I don't know. I mean, it's a values call, but,
Yeah, but I mean, debates are often pushed. Mm-hmm. People are pushed into debates on television, even here on Spreaker, and it's a very popular thing.
It does sell, yes.
Yeah, well, because that's division sells. Mm-hmm. It's like the only thing we know these days sometimes, you think. But a debate is never going to bring anybody understanding.
Yeah.
It doesn't lead to understanding.
People that go into arguments knowing what they want to come out with are going to come out with what they went in with, which is nothing new. They're trying to sell their ideas instead of learn, and that's what creates a debate.
Yeah, I was thinking it's a sales pitch.
Yeah.
And you're just waiting your turn until you can speak again. You're not really listening to the other people because, they're not interested in what you're selling, and you're not interested in what they're selling.
Yeah.
It's kind of useless, in my opinion. Well, you kind of do it for the audience. You're trying to appeal to the audience that is pretty much already behind you, or maybe it's a political thing, really. You're trying to get supporters outside of the debate, not really come to an understanding with the one you're debating. So I would never do a debate. I think it's useless.
Well, if I had to do a debate, I think it would be like the way Joe Biden handled himself when he was debating with, what's his name, the dude from North Carolina that got caught cheating on his wife that was dying of cancer and all that. I can't remember his name, John something. But he was very polite, and he just said, look, here's where we differ. And you can do that, but what happens is people are animals, and people want to forget this all the time. We are fooled day in and day out being told we're not animals, and people want to see a fight. There's something revealing about a fight. I don't know what it is, but it draws a crowd. And that's where debates get their momentum from. And there are people that come into a debate as an audience member who aren't convinced either way, and they're looking to be convinced, so they want to see the best argument put forward. And that's the whole purpose of a political debate, sell me your brand. But I think just going for the strongest candidate could be a mistake, because ideas can be strong even when supported by a weaker candidate. So one debate should never decide anything for anybody. But people do love a fight. I think that's part of the problem with culture today.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If people organize a debate, they're going to pick two people that are pretty much black and white, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and you're going to draw in all the people that listen to the debate, which probably have a gray-colored opinion. You're going to drag them to one of these two sides. So no grays will be left, which is kind of stupid if you think of it, because you want to, if you, for example, want somebody to talk to and mediate between two people, you want somebody that has an opinion that is in between those two people. And if you get rid of all gray opinions, you'll never get people understanding each other again. It's kind of it's another thing that I consider perfect for this world. Something that is like upside down.
Yeah,
it's the opposite of what you would think is good for making the world better.
Yeah.
Oh well.
I'm looking at a quote right now from René Descartes, and he says, "If you would be a real seeker after truth, it is necessary that at least once in your life you doubt, as far as possible, all things." That means doubt everything that you think you know, and rebuild your knowledge on it. And I agree. I think that's the only way to learn. But people go into these arguments and debates knowing what they want to come out with. They want to come out with a victory. Why? Why are they so sure they're right, you know?
Well, what Descartes said right there in that quote could be seen as the same thing that McKenna talks about, just starting out with a clean slate and seeing if everything that you valued before is still so valid to you, you know?
Yeah.
If you look at everything that you took for granted again, you might drop a few that, maybe are not that, because you never know when you have an idea, if at the time you adopted the idea, in what kind of state you were, how were you influenced, you don't know.
Right.
Just like you could have started out with a really, really wrong McKenna clip and said, this guy is full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
If you went into the time wave theory right away, you might have been scared away from McKenna. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I came in with judgments. I was judging him coming in thinking he's a hippie, he doesn't know anything. He's going to say a bunch of shit that we can't prove is wrong and people will follow him. That's what I was thinking. And then I let him prove me wrong point by point. But I think it is an intelligent and mature person that goes into a conversation or debate saying, I'm going to let you prove me wrong if you can. You just have to have good evidence. And he has good evidence for a lot of the stuff he's saying regarding general political phrases and understanding society and family and the nature of man. These great philosophers of all time, he may turn out to be one of those names we still talk about in 1,000 years. So I think you might have picked a good modern day philosopher there to follow.
Yeah, although it feels more like you picked me, but but I wasn't really looking for him, so to speak. But maybe you never know how these things work. I think it's really typical. He often says that we are led by the least among us. That's a phrase he uses a lot, and it makes me wonder why would we choose to be led by the least among us? Why aren't? I mean, you often don't you ever have that you hear people that have a podcast or see people on TV or radio or wherever, and you think, why isn't this guy our president? You know, why isn't this guy in politics?
Well, I know why. It's because people that are sheep, as they tend to be described, will follow strength. But strength can only be gained from certainty, and certainty is a fool's game. So the wisest people in our race, I think, are the people who keep questions open in their mind. And those people don't make great leaders because they'll call you wishy-washy if you keep an open mind. You know, for some reason, certainty seems like strength, and certainty is almost always a recipe for disaster. And there's a famous quote, I can't remember how it goes, but it's something like, how come the most intelligent among us aren't the loudest among us? It's the least intelligent that are the loudest. So their message is getting heard. They're so certain about everything when you and I know they can't be certain about half the shit they're talking about.
Well, that's what, if you take any group and just random people throw them together, there will be one or two people that take the lead initially, which are not natural leaders, but just the big mouths, right? And then after they fail, the real leader will step up. And I think the real leader will also see these guys take charge and think, well, okay, I'll give you a week and then I'll take over. You know,
yeah.
They won't argue with the bullies. They won't argue with the big mouths. So, yeah. But in politics and leadership, that's not happening. It's not like a normal group dynamic.
Mm-hmm. No, it's not. You're right.
So it's not natural. We're not really being led in a natural way, which is weird.
Well, how is that happening? Do you think money is driving the campaigns and that's the reason for it?
Maybe yesterday I thought it was money. Today I think it's the supercomputer, but I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but it does seem like we're doing it all wrong. And I'm wondering why we're doing it wrong, and I'm wondering how could we improve it without too much pain, because no doubt it's going to hurt.
That's right.
Whatever is coming, it's going to hurt.